So I did a live video the other day, and I don't know, I was having trouble saving it to my computer or whatever, or I wanted to post it on like my Instagram page, something like that. But anyway, I keep feeling like compelled to post something on here, and as far as like a video is concerned, hey Mary Ellen, voila. So I know in my own life things have been sort of hectic, like emotionally, stuff like that. And like I do readings all the time, well, frequently anyway. I mean, it is my job, and but a couple of things have happened, not as far as like readings are concerned, just things are that's sort of like chaotic, and things coming at me that I did not, people like, oh, I didn't ask for your opinion about this, whatever. So like things coming at me, I didn't ask for your opinion, and I just think that there's a lot of chaos going on right now in the world, and there's a lot of and I think in my last video I was talking about there being this sort of upheaval going on, and so I don't think that it is necessarily about I don't think it has anything to do with like politics or anything like that. I think that it has more to do with things happening on like a planetary level. And Melanie, so I'm trying to stay focused on what it is that's like going on and what is trying to come through psychically and stuff. So I'm sorry if I don't say hello to each and every person that comes in. It sort of disrupts the flow. So I don't know, maybe I can go back later and like say hi to people afterwards and stuff like that. So it's not like I'm ignoring you or anything like that. But anyway, I think that there's a lot going on from a planetary point of view, and so I think that is what is causing a lot of like disruption, right? And a lot of things that have been hidden coming into view, and when things are hidden, it can also mean things that are repressed or things that have been like oppressing you, things like that, and all of those things like trying to come up to the surface. And I think that we had I think it was Jupiter and Saturn that there was this like convergence things that happened, and like a planetary alignment, and and I think that it's supposed to be another bigger thing happening like in February. I'm not sure which day, but just think it's like if Saturn is all about structure and everything like that, it's about like everything has a structure, right? How we do our lives, like political things have a structure, like the way we carry ourselves, our physical body is also a structure and stuff like that. And then you have like Jupiter coming in, and Jupiter being this planet of like expansion, a planet of luck, things like that, right? So it's like you have this thing that is about your structure, and then if you put, from what I'm seeing anyway, my interpretation, whether it's like real or not real, whatever, but I figure if you put like Jupiter with that thing, it's going to make it bigger, and so you can have more of a sense of like responsibility, stuff like that going on, and it can have more things coming into your purview kind of deal. And so I don't know, I just think that it can cause And if there's changes happening in the structure, then there's an expression that people say sometimes. It's like, well, are things falling apart or are they falling together? So I do think that it can appear that things are falling apart when in reality things are in fact like falling together. So like one of the things that I posted on this page about starting to do psychic development groups or psychic development classes, stuff like that, like kind of coaching, mentoring, things like that, or things of that nature. And because I think that there's a lot of things that are happening with people that are causing, them to become like more psychic, more like empathic, and an empath is somebody that feels what other people feel, and it's like you can call it about feeling things like deeply, right? And so a couple of things happened to me recently, and one today, one yesterday, and I'm not going to go into what they were, but because that's not important. What's important is that they are things that like shook me, right? And not for nothing, but like I have dealt with a lot of pain in my life. I've dealt with a lot of like abuse issues or trauma, stuff like that, and so I've done a lot of work in my life as somebody that is a Reiki master, and I'm a witch, and psychic and things like that. So I mean, I deal with like things like as in terms of like a regular therapist, stuff like that. But I do work on myself like spiritually as well to be able to heal from a bunch of stuff. So because some people say, oh, it's like an inside job, right? So it's like I try a lot and do a lot of work about healing like my spirit and stuff like that. And so I just think it's important that people, there's a book that I recommend to people all the time. It's called The Four Agreements, and it talks about like not taking things personally, and being impeccable with your word, which means being clear about like what it is that you're saying, stuff like that. And one is about like not making assumptions, like never assume, and they say that like that alone can like transform your whole life, right? It's like because a lot of people want to backpedal, they want to be like, oh well, let's like set up this appointment for like this meeting, whatever, hang out on this particular day, whatever, and then they just like bail, right? And it's like, well, it wasn't written in stone, whatever. It's like it's like so it's important to not assume things, right? And it's like trying to hold people accountable for their actions, right? That's what that means about like not assuming. Don't just assume that someone's going to meet up with you just because like they're saying that. It's like hold them to it, or make an appointment. Like if it's not in my phone, it's not happening, right? So it's like I set up my appointments. I people that I want to talk to, whether it's like getting a massage or setting up like Reiki with somebody, or a doctor's appointment, or like whatever it is. If I'm supposed to be meeting somebody, it goes in there, and it's like something that has been confirmed. And so I try not to feel guilty about things that other people do. It's not like people want to say things and they can be hurtful and stuff like that. But I think that it's because there is this whole shakeup that's happening in the universe, right? I don't know, a lot of times like spirit gives me these messages, and it's like I'm just not I'm not like looking for them or anything like that. It's like they're like, oh, here, have this tidbit of information. And so one of the things that they explained to me is that in the past, like like I was born in 1960, 61, and so back then it's like, there wasn't all of this sort of calamity going on in the world. There wasn't all this, like, people weren't like rioting. There was no internet, so you didn't have like mass connections with people like that. There was no real big way of like doing all of that stuff, and so I'm not just talking about like rioting. I'm just talking about being able to connect to people on this like huge level, and things happening, like things have the ability to happen like so fast now, and so it's like back then things were a lot more like calm. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm trying really hard not to be like political or anything like that. I'm not saying that racism wasn't like happening back then. I'm not saying that there weren't like problems in the world. What I am saying is that people were more like separate, so so there can be less of a shakeup to your own personal energy, to your own like aura, stuff like that, right? But now it's like there's like just so much connection to the whole world, right? That no wonder as people are an empath, it's like all of that stuff can now come at you in a much bigger way because there's more people feeling more things, right? It's like, how they say, like somebody was wrong on the internet, right? So, yeah. So, there's a lot of people being like offended, as they say. And so there's more aggravation going on and more people getting heated up about things. And so, when I say like heated up, it just reminds me of like how things are boiled, right? It's like you have like one molecule in the water, right? And that one thing is like heated up and then it starts like more and more. And so it's like, but it's like the more molecules you have that are like starting to boil, they're starting to get heated, then there's more confusion, there's more chaos, there's more things being heated up, there's more interaction with everything, right? That's the same thing that is happening in the world. So, so what does that say? Gotta be mindful of all the info and intake of stuff. Right? Yep. So he's just saying you have to be mindful of all the info and all the intake. Hey Vanessa, miss you. Yes, you have to be mindful of all the info and everything like that's coming in, and people aren't even aware of how it is affecting, things that can be, I read something, some article about, this group, whatever this rally was going on, right? And it doesn't even matter what it was about. It was a lot of like chaos, confusion, stuff like that. And it wasn't even like near me, but it was still affecting me because it's something that I read, and so that has an ability to like, color my day, as they call it, right? It can change the lens for that particular moment, right? So this is one of the reasons why I continue to do Reiki on myself. Like, I continue to try to be like clear, and it can be overwhelming to try to do this because there's just so much stuff going on. One of the things I learned in the past was, something that I saw before. It's like when you look at things from like a pyramid, right? You have a pyramid, and so think of it like the bottom pyramid and this period of time, right? Think of it as like this much information at the bottom of the pyramid, right? Figure like if you have like say like a 12-inch pyramid, like so the bottom inch of that pyramid and the width, you have all that information that can come through in that period of time, right? So and then you go up an inch on the pyramid, right? So then you have that same kind of information, that same amount of information that would have been happening, right? It would have taken that amount of time on the bottom edge of the pyramid, move it up an inch, and it's happening like that much faster. It's an exponential kind of like happening. So it's like you have, you know, that information, but it's like happening like sooner, right? Then you go up an inch on the pyramid, and then you have the same amount of information that is happening on the bottom of the pyramid. Now it's happening fast, right? But you have more information that's happening at any given time, right? So it's like, so everything is happening faster and faster and faster. So at this point, we're now basically at the top of the pyramid, right? So it's like you have all of this information that's happening instantaneously, right? Think about what that can do to a person's like psyche, right? Like everything happening, you know, all the planetary activity going on, all of the people, all of the countries, like all of the chaos going on, right? So it's affecting people, right? So it's like we're not as like separate as we were back in like, you know, the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Even like the 60s, whatever it is before the internet. And you know, even if there were computers, they weren't like connected, you know. And so I could just think that like today, the way that Spirit was telling me was that, you know, because of all of this stuff going on, because of all of the connection that people have, it's going to create this kind of like shakeup in your energy. And so it's important to be mindful about not reacting to things that do not really belong to you. Right? Hey, Lady June. Janine. So it's just like, you know, what was I saying? Oh yeah, it's like all of this like chaos going all around the world. It's like I understand that there can be big political things that are affecting people, stuff like that. But in general, it's like what is yours, and it's like as an empath, it's very important that we know what belongs to us and what belongs to other people, right? So if I'm being like, I have cut out like a whole lot of people in my life, and I'm not going to go into what that's all about and everything like that, but it's like I have become like more sensitive, and part of that is because of the work I do about keeping my energy clear, stuff like that. But it is also because of, you know, becoming like stronger in who I am, and like getting rid of a lot of like crap that doesn't belong to me, and like being very clear about what's mine and what's not mine. And so I don't know, I just think it's important, I don't know, something that's trying to come up like from behind me somehow or another. I think the Spirit is trying to say something. I don't know, somebody's talking about the way that we do things in the world is not the same way as they did things like back then. There's a lot more like aggression going on and stuff like that, and I think that the aggression is something that can be, you know, like really like dangerous in the world. Not just like for the people who are involved, but like, you know, for the world at large. But you know, the good news is that when people are like praying, and this is what I like to focus on, when people are praying, when people are meditating, when people are sending out like more of a positive vibe, the way that I look at it is like, you know, like, yes, I'm a witch, but like, you know, like when people are like praying, when people are like meditating, I do believe in the power of prayer, right? And so the more people that are praying, whether, you know, whatever mode you're praying in, as they say, whatever modality you're using, whether it's like lighting a candle or like sitting with like whoever you're praying to, stuff like that, If you're like in one house, right, and I'm in an apartment building, there's 4 units in this particular building. So if like I'm here and I'm like praying and I'm meditating and trying to make my energy more positive, then that is like something that can help balance the energy in where I am, right? And not just in my apartment, but in this building, in these 4 units, right? And there's a book by Wayne Dwyer. It's called The Power of Intention, and in the book he talks about the 7 faces of God, and being, I'm not going to go into all of that, but it's about being like creative. It's about being beautiful. It's about it's about expansion and all, like these are like, it's about the things that are inherent in like a human life that why we're on the planet and what it is that we're doing and how that is the face of God, right? And but in the book he talks about how like the Dalai Lama, like he's this big spiritual being, and so he carries all of this energy with him. So if he's in one spot, he has the ability to affect like all of these masses of people, right? So it's like any one person can do that. Like me as one person, when I'm like sitting here and I'm like praying and I'm meditating and I'm increasing my positive energy, and I'm not letting all of the negative energy of the world like overwhelm me and like change the view of how I am like looking at the world, because it's all about the lens, right? Some people want to be like, oh, like they talk about like looking through rose-colored glasses or something like that, right? Or like I said, I have had a lot of like traumatic experiences and abuse issues, stuff like that, right? So like I could still be looking through that lens, right, about being a victim and how the world is this big horrible place and everything like that, right? But it's like, I don't have time to let that get me down, right? Like it still comes up, stuff like that, but there are bigger things that I have to contend with, what I came to the planet to do, what my role on the planet is, and stuff like that. I do believe that I came to the planet to be a healer, to be a teacher somehow, and a teacher, to me, what I've learned is that a teacher is somebody that has something on the inside in their spirit that they are supposed to give to the rest of the world, or give to whoever it is that is available to listen, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why these like videos are trying to happen right now, because I am not one for public speaking, and it like messes me up a lot trying to do that, and I'm always concerned about like, oh, like what are people gonna say, what are they thinking, and blah blah blah, right? But anyway, so point is that my job on this planet is to bring more positivity, be more light, be more all of that out into the world, right? So as I was like saying, like if I'm doing that in this house, and then that's something that can affect this building, right? But then it's like if somebody else is like in the next on the next street or across the street, something like that, right? Then if that person is doing the same thing, then that increases the positive energy around where I am, right? So and then if somebody else on the other 2 streets over there is doing the same thing, and if other people are a couple of blocks away, right, if everybody around is doing the same thing, then that is going to drastically change the outcome of things, right? And so I was told before, like I remember, I don't know where it was recently. Spirit was talking about how there's more light that's coming, there's more, the more children that are being born, there's more people, you can call them aliens, you can call them like crystal children, you can call them indigo children, you can call them people from like other places, whatever you want to call them, new beings on the planet that are not from here, that have never been on this planet, whatever, right? they're bringing higher levels of energy, they're bringing more healing to the planet, stuff like that. And so there's less, there has more of an ability to be less corruption on the planet, stuff like that. So, domino effect. Yep. Exactly, will bring more joy. So, exactly. But it's not just like the domino effect, it's not just about like, this affecting this, affecting this, affecting this. It's like the cumulative effect, right? It's like things like this happen like exponentially. It's not just about how, I'm here and this here. It's not about 1 and 1 equals 2, right? It's like, what do they call it? Like, the sum is bigger than the parts and stuff like that, whatever, I don't know, however that gets said. But anyway, it's like things are definitely have an ability to be like bigger. And like I think there's going to be like a lot more healing that is taking place on the planet. And I think that like this whole like COVID thing, it forces people to have to spend time more alone, right? But it forces them to have to deal with themselves too. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you can't blame you can't blame like being crazy on somebody else over there if you're the only one there, right? So, oh, I was at this party, this person did this, so it made me be crazy, right? It's like, no, like you're in your apartment, you're by yourself. If you're being crazy, it's on you, right? So it's up to you to be mindful of yourself, to be aware of who you are, of what you're doing, stuff like that, and to be able to reach out or be able to ask for help or like practice more meditation or doing whatever it is that you're doing. There's a whole lot going on these days about, I think that there's I don't know, I'm experiencing it. I know other clients of mine are experiencing it. There's a big purge that is happening, right? And this is what I mean about this whole, like Jupiter and expansion thing, right? It's like our insides are becoming, our inside life is becoming like bigger, right? So, I don't know, I just feel like, I don't know, like I'm in the process of like getting rid of a bunch of stuff out of my apartment, but it's not just about getting rid of stuff out of my apartment, it's getting rid of stuff out of my spirit. And the two things are the same, right? I told people recently, I was plotting a coup against like my doctor, the health system, stuff like that. And I was on these like medications, hydrochlorothiazide, some other stuff, whatever, and it's like by themselves it's like they're not necessarily bad, they're supposed to be helpful, etc., right? But like they're making me like lethargic, tired all the time, like 24/7 tired. I'm like, I'm not doing this. So I investigated and looked at different websites, things like that, and did research, and not just like fly by night kind of websites, whatever, but things like the Mayo Clinic and like the website for the particular like medication, stuff like that. And it's like, there has to be something different going on like this. And I do believe that there is a spiritual cause for every illness, so I do look at that as well. And so if you have like more clutter around you, there's going to be more clutter inside, and that is something that is going to affect your it's something that's going to affect your physicality too, right? So the more clear your surroundings are, the less like chaotic things are around you, the less chaotic the people are in your life, then there's going to be less chaos that goes on inside of you, right? So like I've been forced to have to ground more, right? And people talk about, grounding. It's one of the things that I've been talking to people about in terms of, psychic development, stuff like that. People are always talking about grounding and shielding and stuff like that, and protection when you're going into doing psychic work, stuff like that, right? And like people are like, visualize a visualizing like roots going down into the center of the earth and stuff like that, and they talk about it as if it can be this like really easy thing, right? And when you have a lot of like crap going on inside of you, like you know, whatever kind of health issues, stuff like that going on, it's not easy, right? It's like because there are blocks in your energy. So it's like I've had like, I mean, I have like neuropathy in both of my legs. I have edema in both of my legs and feet. And like, I'm not saying that as a way of like complaining. I'm just talking about it as how there can be like barriers. Like, I'm talking about my personal experience, but it's like whatever you have going on with you, right? And it doesn't mean don't do it. It just means that, you know, give yourself time, give yourself space, be good to yourself, you know, be gentle with yourself, stuff like that. But it's like, you know, it's being difficult to like ground, especially because there's all this stuff that wants to be upheaval, right? And there's all this stuff that's trying to, like, I look, when I see things like psychically in terms of, you know, a lot of changes happening with people's lives, I see it psychically as an earthquake, right? So that's what I talk about in terms of an upheaval, right? People going through a lot of changes and stuff like that. And so in a lot of ways, I see it as the whole world going through this upheaval. And so, you know, the ground that we're in, unsettled, earthquake, right, all of that stuff. And I did see psychically, like years ago, before this whole COVID thing ever started, I was shown a plague coming. And so I was talking to my teacher, and she's like, well, even the flu is a plague, right? And so here we are. We have this COVID thing, and it's a plague, right? Pandemic, a plague, whatever you want to call it, right? And so hence like the earthquakes, right? And hey Jessica. Thank you for all the stars and love. So that, like, I was told that, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago that this thing was coming, and I didn't know if I was going to be alive during this time. But I was getting a lot of healers as clients and stuff like that, and you know, I just told them, you know, you're being called to service. That's the way that I put it. When it's like what you have come to the planet for. You know, people think, oh, like it's about having kids and stuff like that, whatever, and like, and maybe it is, right? But when you're a healer, it's going to be much bigger than that. So, so these people, I'm like, well, you're being called into service, and it's like there's going to be a lot of like health issues going on, stuff like that, and so you're going to have to be a part of this thing, right? So I didn't tell them, oh, there's a plague coming, and because that's going to freak everybody out. Right? So you kind of have to be careful what it is that you're saying to people, and because if you're doing like a 15-20 minute reading or a half hour, it's like, you know, you don't have time to like explain to them everything. So, you know, you have to watch your words about what it is that you're saying. But here we are, we're in this pandemic, and so people are being called into service, all the frontline people, all that kind of stuff, whatever, and people that weren't doing it before, they're doing it now, and so there's all that stuff going on. So anyway, sorry, I have a tendency to go off on like tangents every now and then, and because I just have all of this information that is trying to come at me like psychically, and like I work with what I refer to as a collective, and when it first started, I was thinking that it was maybe, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 like guides that were talking to me, right? Although recently I have been made aware that there are a lot more, and no wonder like my brain is like confused, because there's like so many like energies that are out there that are trying to come through. And I'm not just talking about, like my spirit guides. I think that I'm referring to the collective, I don't know, what do they call it, the collective consciousness, collective unconscious, whatever it is. It's like, like I tell people all the time, it's like, as an empath, I think that like I'm a very strong empath because I feel the change that's happening with the planets. So therefore, this is why I feel things and can sense things that are happening like years out, and so a lot of people that are psychics, and I'm not saying that I'm better than or anything like that. I'm just saying this is what happens, right? Is that some people say, oh, I can only see 6 months out, right? And it's like, well, that's cool, whatever. Then come back in 6 months, get another reading, right? But like I've seen things that happen like 2, 3, 4 years down the road, and it's like, people come and like tell me, oh, like you told me about this like 2 years ago, whatever. I'm like, okay, I don't remember what I say to people. I just like go about my business, doing my thing, and so I'm just talking about how people have to be able to take care of themselves and pay attention to what's going on with their own self and keep their own energy clear, and be aware of how their energy is impacting the world and how the world is impacting them, and to be safe and to not get all like freaked out about stuff that does not really have anything to do with them. It does, but it doesn't. There's a whole thing about the before there was this thing about being green and whatever, right? Like they would say, think globally, act locally, right? So it's like that's all you can really do, right? And like locally is like within here. So when you're keeping yourself centered and your space clear and being able to hear what your guides are saying to you, right? Not caught up in a frenzy, but like, what are you here to do? Not so much about like your belief system, because your belief system may or may not be wrong, or it may be right, whatever. It's like, who knows? But it's like, what are you here to do, right? And being clear about that and stuff like that. And I think that for the most part, people will see that it is about caring for other people and helping other people, and helping them advance. My guides are not about like money and finances and stuff like that. They're about you dealing with your karma, right? And so mostly that's what I talk to people about, is like how you're going to advance spiritually, how you're going to advance like with your karma. You have like personal karma, you have family karma, and what are you going to do with any of that? Right? So but this is a huge time period about like really like letting go of the past, right? Like I was talking to somebody earlier, and it's like there's all this like, there's them, and then they have all of this like crap that they've been holding on to like their whole life. And I've been watching people like leave all of this like crap behind them, and this person I was talking to, they're like, well, I've been doing it my whole life, and it, sounds the same to me. And I'm like, well, what you're not hearing is that that's changing, that is being let go of, and that what you have been dealing with your whole life. It's like, I was telling this person, it's like you're going through this huge, like it's really like a quantum leap in like change, like spiritually, right? And it's like happening with her, but it's happening with like so many people, right? So that tells me it's happening on a planetary level. So it's going to happen with like everybody. So just be aware that it can be very chaotic inside as you're trying to release, as you're trying to purge this energy that's happening like inside of you, that stuff that you've been holding on to like for this lifetime, for last lifetime, however long, whatever it is that's in your spirit, right? All this stuff trying to be let go of. And it can be really intense, and it can be really like you can start to feel like crazy when that stuff is happening. It's like, I really wanted to say, well, this is what happens when a planet is coming into birth, right? But it's like I didn't think that this person would understand that. So it's like, it's the same thing when you're having a baby, right? Like, I've not had a baby, but I am an empath, so I have felt that. Wasn't nice, wasn't pretty, whatever. Like, so anyway, I feel that's how I know that it's like an empathic thing. It's like, when you feel things that don't belong to you, like, it can be intense. So I've had experiences that don't belong to me, and so anyway, that's what I'm talking about in terms of like everybody is having this like mass thing that is like happening about letting go of stuff. It's being like we're being like forced into this thing, right? It's like the upheaval. That's what I was trying to talk about earlier. Is that there's this whole, with all of the ground coming up, right? That whole earthquake thing happening, and if you're just joining, you'll just have to go back and look and see what that was all about. So it's like you can have difficulty grounding if all the earth beneath you is all like being in an upheaval. It's like it's hard to ground these days. So it's like so it's kind of like it doesn't mean like don't do it. It just means continue doing it and be diligent doing it, and it means like being kind to yourself while you're trying to ground, and it's like protecting yourself like spiritually from the chaos so that you can be sane doing you. And this one woman I used to like talk to all the time, she's all about like like feeling and healing, feeling and healing, feeling and healing, because as a person on the planet, we're always doing something. We're always expending our energy and stuff like that. So we have to keep filling with the spirit, right? And whoever it is that you pray to, God, Goddess, higher self, whatever it is, like keep bringing that energy in order to help like clear yourself, like heal yourself, stuff like that, and continue to work on like grounding yourself, because it can really help you to like prevent like this, when they talk about disease, right? Talking about dis-ease, right? So it can be a big way of like preventing dis-ease in your life, therefore preventing disease. So anyway, I am very excited because I've been unpacking, and I found one of them. So they say that bells are a good way of like clearing your energy, clearing the energy of the place. So even if you don't have sage or whatever, right? Even if you just go around like with a bell, the clarity of it helps to like clear the energy. So a lot of times I'll use like the singing bowl as a way of like, because it's so high, clear pitch, right? It's like I send that energy out. It's like I pray and I meditate and I try to bring out all of this like healing energy. And when I'm doing the bowl, it's like just sending it out, because I feel like it has the ability to like pierce all of the stuff, and it can go further out. Because for me, I can feel things that are, happening far away. So as far as I can feel, that's how far I can send that kind of like energy as well. So I may feel that energy coming at me from like 2-3 miles away, but I can also send out healing and positive energy, like, you know, more clear 2-3 miles away. But you can heal, you can like visualize the planet and and visualize the whole energy around the whole planet, like trying to heal and stuff like that too. So yeah, I don't know, it's a big thing going on right now, and I just want people to be able to take care of themselves, to be mindful about what's going on. And I know that the messages tonight have been sort of jumbled and everything like that, but so I am sorry for that. But hopefully you understand what it is I'm talking about. And if you do want more clarity about your own particular situation or something like that, feel free to, you know, send me a message or something like that, and you know, we can do a reading for you personally and stuff like that. See what's happening with your world. You know what I mean? Or this is why I like to, I continue, I learned to do Reiki in like 1995, I became a Reiki master in 1995, and it's one of the reasons I continue to do it, and I'm going to be learning a new modality for healing too, like soon. So even though I'm like almost 60, I can't like stop, you know, there's still stuff going on, there's still ways of healing the planet and helping the planet and stuff like that. Even if I'm not out, like, you know, being a nurse or a doctor or stuff like that, like I'm still here to, you know, be able to help the planet somehow or another. And so, you know, from like my little apartment where I am, and me, and I have like a little like setup. So, little singing bowl, crystals, wands, different stuff. So, yep. So anyway, just want to say like good luck to everybody, and we'll be thinking about you and praying for you, and you know, keep it going. So good luck. Thanks. I have my other glasses with me. Changing the skies. See what happens. Okay. Tanya Jardine. I don't know who's watching still. Does that show? Wow. Already on. Alright. Okay. See you.